Excel spreadsheet we're using, and it kind of shows different categories and different percentage values. You don't have to worry about reading all this. I know it's a lot. I'll be breaking this down more per headset so that you can kind of see it all. All right, so first we're going to go over augmented reality headsets primarily. So we'll start with RealWear just because I tried it. And so you can kind of see there's this table here on the left, and we'll have that for every headset. And it kind of shows the different categories that we're judging by based off our specific use cases. And we're basically just rating it on a scale of 1 to 10, and then each one has a percentage value, and we're factoring, how useful it is out of a percentage of 100, basically, for what we're doing. But yeah, as you can see, this one's a little rough for obvious reasons. I can go more in depth if we want, but I feel like it's pretty straightforward why this doesn't work for what we need. HoloLens 2. This one surprised me a little bit. It didn't fit as well as I expected with the masks. In fact, it was almost unusable with the Hans Rudolph mask. They're on the right-hand side right here. I don't know if you can see, but it's tilted up to the point where I can barely see the viewpoint. And even in the Draeger mask, it was still a surprisingly rough fit. It was a little better, but not as good as I'd expected. Alrighty, and then so we got Magic Leap. Magic Leap fit pretty well actually. Again, it was a rough fit with the Hans Rudolph mask, but better than the HoloLens. But actually a great fit with the Draeger. It fit surprisingly comfortably. I think just because it sat on that soft top of the mask, which this is the Draeger mask for example. Anyways, yeah. And it has a lot of the functionalities we'd want, but due to the being tethered to a computer and all this stuff, it's not exactly what we're looking for. These were really interesting. This is probably one of the coolest things I saw at AES was these Vuzix glasses. And what it is it's a single green color display. It's not 6DoF tracked or anything like that, which means it got a pretty low score out of what we need. But for anything where you just need a display on the eye, it's really, really lightweight and has a very long battery life as well. They were claiming a 2-week battery life with this setup. And it looked like normal glasses. I was surprised when I actually tried them out. But very cool. And it tethers to Android phone, all that kind of stuff. But we'll get moving along. So now the interesting part, virtuality headsets. This more applies to what we need. So we've got what we're currently using, the Vive Pro I. And so as you can see, this is kind of like some current use cases we have with it. It does work okay with the Draeger mask. You can smash the soft top of the mask to make it work and make it fit. But it does push up against the point of view a little bit whenever you have that mask attached to something like we do in CO2 Walkback. And so it's not perfect. It's a little rough. On the Hans Rudolph, it's almost unusable. The hard plastic top of the mask that is right here pushes against the hard plastic of the headset and tilts it up to the point where I can barely see the display. And I haven't really found a way around that, unfortunately. And then over here with the suit, it fits okay, but the field of view is really bad. You definitely lose at least 10 degrees of FOV, if not more than that, with the way this is set up. And there's a decent amount of light leak. Anyways, Vive Pro 2 is basically the exact same form factor, just without the eye tracking, which is why it has a lower score than the Vive Pro I, because we need the eye tracking. So it's got a pretty high percentage value to it. Quest 2 ranked surprisingly high, actually, and that is mostly because it fits with our HS3 suit. Back in this photo right here on the right, this is the HS3 suit, and the Quest 3 is small enough to fit just with the Velcro strap inside of the helmet with a mask, which is pretty nice. That's something that is invaluable for us. So if we can find that in any other way, that'd be great. Anyways, yeah, so it fits pretty well. And obviously it's lacking in a bunch of features that we need, but it does have that, which works great. Vive Focus 3. So this is, again, a decent fit with the Draeger mask. As you can see here, I can the soft top allows me to shove the soft portion of the mask down and make it fit. But again, it's almost unusable with the Hans Rudolph mask. The hard plastic pushes against the hard plastic of the headset. It's hard to make it work. In other categories, this headset does great though. It's pretty good in a lot of other ways, but that is a big limiting factor for us. Vario Arrow, I wasn't actually able to get to try this, so I don't have pictures of it, but The biggest issue for us here is the wire. If there's a wire, then we basically can't use it. So even though it is really good in a lot of ways and arguably the best in some ways, the existence of a wire makes it unusable in our environment. VR3 is a similar scenario. Again, very capable, but it doesn't have, it's tethered. And as far as I'm aware, there's no way to run it wirelessly, which makes it so we can't really use it. Now onto the mixed reality headsets, which are the fun ones. So Quest 3 is pretty crazy. Earlier I was saying how you could fit the Quest 2 inside of the helmet on the HS3 suit. Now you can fit it inside the helmet and put the visor down over the VR headset with room to spare. It's so small, you can just slip it inside of the helmet with no problem, with no modifications, and it fits with a mask and everything. It's pretty crazy. And I tested the depth sensor, and the hand tracking works through the visor of the helmet. So a pretty impressive piece of hardware here. The biggest reason being that it's so low profile that we can use it with whatever we need. Unfortunately, the lack of eye tracking makes it a non-option for us because we have to have eye tracking for cognitive performance measures. Quest Pro has the eye tracking, which is nice, and has a lot of other things that are nice. However, it's lacking a depth sensor, and more importantly, it's a hard strap, meaning that we can't use it with the HS3 suit without cutting apart the headset and doing a bunch of scary wiring that we don't want to get into. So again, kind of a non-option long-term just because it doesn't work with the suit, but eye tracking and overall qualities of the headset are nice. I threw this in here kind of for fun. This was an interesting thing we saw at Augment Enterprise Summit. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this. Canon mixed reality headset. As you can see, Alex is having to hold it in front of his face while also using his hands as a controller, which seems like an odd design to me. And also the way that they were stacking the displays didn't work for me and made me really sick. I was very disoriented and did not enjoy it. So yeah, pretty bad across the board. Lenovo VRX did pretty well in a lot of ways. In fact, this headset fit amazingly well with all of the masks. This is one of the most comfortable fits I'd had with all of the masks. I was kind of shocked. I didn't expect that. No, the Quest is still more comfortable. Quest is definitely still the most comfortable, but this was on par with it. The problem being it has a hard strap that, again, like the Quest Pro, it's not going to work with the suit. And also it doesn't have eye tracking, which I asked them and they have no plans that they knew of for that. So that's going to be a non-option for us on that one. Vive XR Elite was pretty promising in a lot of ways and pretty disappointing in some others. I guess I'll start with the mask fit. It's hard to see and try to get it in these videos, but on all of the masks, it kind of pushed up a little bit. I was able to move the mask on the Draeger down to make it work, but it was a pretty rough fit. And on the Hans Rudolph, it was borderline unusable. I couldn't get it to line up so that I could see the displays well because the mask kept pushing up the headset so much. Which was kind of unfortunate. Also, the pass-through on this, the pass-through augmented reality was really, really, really rough. I'm pretty confident that they're feeding the camera data through without reconstructing depth at all, and it creates a pretty sickening experience. It's honestly one of the worst pass-through things I've seen, which is unfortunate because they have a depth sensor. So I assume they'll fix that soon, but we'll see. Hopefully talks with them can help with that. And then Vive XR Leap plus eye tracking. So because this doesn't come built in, we had to give it its own category, and I don't have the eye tracker because it's not available yet. So I couldn't do a super fair judgment of it, but I just did my best guess. I assumed that it was less comfortable by 1 to 2, I think 1 notch. Yeah, I dropped it by 1 point in the comfort category for both masks, just guessing, because this is going to have that interface there that you see on the right side for the eye tracking. It's going to push things out and tighten up the fit. And I expect that to be not the greatest feeling ever. Also, more importantly, you're going to lose FOV in this process. I don't know how much, but it's going to be a little bit, which to be determined how bad that is. Also, I included a picture of the face tracker because I think it looks like Squidward, and that's just great. Don't know who designed it, but they must have been having fun. And then this is honestly probably one of the more promising options, if not the most promising option right now. This is the Vive XR Elite with their mixed reality facial gasket and eye tracker. I don't actually have the eye tracker in these clips because it wasn't available, but I was ranking it as if we had it because that's what we need. But we would need this mixed reality facial gasket to use the Hans Rudolph mask. Sorry, yes, better description of what that is. It's like a little, I don't know if you can see at the top of this headset, there's like a little rim there that's spacing it out from my face. And then there's actually a gap all around the rest. And so it's like the Quest Pro, if you've ever worn that, where you have light gaps all around the edges of the headset, and then like a forehead rest that pushes it away from your eyes. And that worked pretty well with all the masks. That was comfortable. However, you have a light leak on all sides, which means that immersive VR is kind of out the window a little bit. Yeah, and so there's a downside there, but in terms of comfort, this was great. It in theory can get the eye tracking and is Vive, so it should work with Vive tracker pucks and all that fun stuff. Interesting headset was the Pico 3 with the Ultraleap sensor. This was way better than I expected, actually. The comfort was great. Oh, wait, this is actually the Pico 4. Oh, that's funny. I did not update the picture on this. My bad. I have a different picture, but it's fine. So Pico 3 Plus Ultraleap fit pretty well. It was, again, as you can see, an 8 and a 9 on the comfort with both masks. It fit great. But due to a bunch of reasons, it's an older headset. It's not going to be exactly what we need. Also, it's made by Pico, which makes it hard for us to acquire. Pico 4 is their upgraded headset. This one, again, fit really well and has some pretty impressive capabilities. They claim to have eye tracking, face tracking, hand tracking, inside out 6 degrees of freedom, pass through, which by the way, their pass through was some of the best I've seen. It's the only headset I've seen that was even close to being on par with the Quest 3 in terms of pass through. So that was interesting. But again, due to the fact that this is built over in China, this is going to be hard for us to acquire. So it is a really good headset, but I don't know if we'll be able to use it. Allegedly, I heard that they have a native full body tracking setup that goes with the headset. I have yet to have seen that in the wild, so I don't know, but they claim they had it. Again, it's Pico, so we probably can't use it. All right, and then the great Vario XR3. This headset, probably one of the most capable headsets there is in terms of like just raw graphics and everything. However, the fit is rough, to put it lightly. It fit okay with the Draeger, but was a pretty heavy one, and fit really bad with the Hans Rudolph mask. Also, more importantly, again, the wire makes this a non-option for us. If we can't get rid of the wire, we really just can't use it, which sucks because I would love to use this. So if anyone knows, I mean, we'd have to, because the problem is we'd have to string a cable between the whole sandbox, 2 treadmills, and a motion platform, right? I mean, we could try, but that's kind of dangerous. And I included 2 slides for the Vario XR3 because I took pictures with both masks and had a hard time fitting them on one thing. So this is with the Draeger mask, and then this is with the Hans Rudolph mask. As you can see with the Hans Rudolph mask, it's pushing the headset up at a pretty aggressive angle. And there was just no way to fix that without borderline taking the mask off my nose. So unfortunately, also there was a lot of light leak on this as well. I could see, I was able to see the person taking a picture of me through this gap in the headset. So yeah, unfortunately, that's probably not an option. So that brings us to our tier list. This is the big bad final tier list based off of all the rankings we set up. And going off of this, it honestly, I tried not to look at this until I actually compiled the final list and was kind of surprised by the results. Obviously, some of this is taken with a grain of salt just because like how it's ranked and what the use case is for. But according to this, the best headset is going to be the Vive XR Elite with a mixed reality facial interface and eye tracking. Biggest problem is we'd need to figure out how to modify the interface to block all the light, but that is an easier problem to solve than all of the other problems we're facing. And then, I mean, we could go on down the line, but that's basically the gist of it. In that case, any questions?
I'm not sure if we're good echo. This is awesome, Caleb. Thanks for sharing. So the XR Elite, I guess that's good that we're gonna get a loaner to try all that out. Can you go over what were our big needs again? So it was the eye tracking.
Yeah, here, let me just go back to the start.
So it was
And
the
does this
XR
meet
Elite
all of
that
those? Because
that
there are
didn't
some where it's
have
like
that.
if it's tethered, we just like absolutely cannot use the headset. But there's some where it's like if it works with the Draeger mask, but not the Hans Rudolph mask, like that's acceptable because we can still use it with one of the masks, but maybe it's not a perfect mask fit. So I'm not sure. What are the ones that like we cannot absolutely have? So like tethered, wireless VR. Eye tracking is maybe not a hard requirement because we already have it in the Vive Pro Eyes, but it's definitely really nice if we can get that on the next gen headset. Okay, yeah, so here's your weighted table with all the how each category was weighted. Yeah, so in terms of the XR Elite, the actual eye tracking module, it's actually not out right now. But when we were talking with HTC Vive yesterday, they said that there is a module that's going to be coming out very similar to I think the one that works with the Focus 3 right now. But so right now there's actually no eye tracking on the XR Elite, but there should be, and TBD when should be arrives. But so that's also the big thing too, is a lot of these headsets like just came out this year, and a lot of their accessories or like modifications maybe are not fully released yet. So um, that's the other thing. But I don't know. This is really cool. I don't know, Crystal or anyone else. I'm trying to think who might have.
No, you
Um,
you answered my question. Yeah, I was confused, a little confused because there were two XR Elites on there, and I wasn't sure like which one was better, why one was better than the other. But yeah, you answered it, I think.
Hey, on the subject of
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Caleb, can you go back to slide on XR Elite with the eye and or face tracking module?
so I think Caleb was talking, but I just realized he's not in the meeting. So
He just dropped, yeah.
I think he might have hit left instead of
Yeah,
on share screen. Yeah.
I can just sort of explain. One of the things that, as I was like looking at that module, one of the things that kind of has me concerned is that because the XR Elites module is going to be eye and face tracking module.
Hey, Paul, are you talking through Alex or yours? 'Cause we're having a lot of trouble hearing you.
Hey, oh, I just realized that it probably switched over to my other audio source. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Yeah. A lot better now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize that Team switched over to my other microphone. Okay. So on the XR Elite, Caleb, would you mind going to on your slides to the XR Elite's like add-on face and eye tracking module if you've got a slide for that? Yeah, so one thing that I'm concerned about with this XR Elite plus the face tracking module, and it's not something that I've thought about before, but my understanding is the face and eye tracking module are one piece that attaches to the XR Elite, like they're not separate individual parts. Um, and I would be concerned about getting the mask on at the same time that this face tracking module is on because of how it goes straight down over the eyes that may interfere with the masks potentially.
Oh, see, I thought they were separate.
No, as far as I understand, it's a single module that does eye tracking and face tracking. I
Dang,
think that there are
that's
two separate models on the whatever their current or their other inside out tracked headset that has the eye tracking module. I can't remember the name of it right now. Um,
Focus
but
3.
yeah, the Focus 3. So the Focus 3, there's a separate eye tracking module and face tracking module. But my understanding is with the XR Elite, it's a combined module.
We should ask them about that because that's going to be
Yeah.
a deal breaker for us.
Yeah, because I think that you would basically just sort of end up in a scenario where like you can do eye tracking or you can do face mask stuff, but you might not be able to do both at the same time, kind of thing. Shane, you've got your hand up. What's up?
I think it's a low hanging fruit question, but it is. I think it's going to be relevant to HS3 and when we're in things like that. Is
Mhm.
um, how are the microphone and like the speakers for free communication for some of these? Any considerations there of combination of like pumping ambient sound in, right, and then comms loops and things like that. If it's open, right, like you can just have a speaker blowing in your ear. They're like where we have to, or the other way around when we use HS3, we have to put like an AirPod in, right? Have you looked at is that a consideration with any of these, or just some of these something like not have some sort of sound, or what kind of
I
immersion is available there? I guess would be the better question.
I think that they all have sound, but I think that one of the things we're looking at is getting a more dedicated comm system that's going to be external from the headset itself. Um, So they should all produce sound. Like you should be able to do it without, or either that or wear a set of, wireless or Bluetooth headphones with them. But yeah, I would say that our intention eventually uh is to come up with a totally separate comms loop system.
Yeah, and like Paul's right there, where all of these newer headsets have spatial audio built into the head strap. So I guess I didn't show it very good here, but this headset actually separates right here. That's why this cable splits. And this turns into like a set of glasses essentially that doesn't need the back end. And the audio is built up into that strap. But yeah, all the newer headsets have that audio and mic built in, so that is something you should be good with.
Cool. Thanks, team.
The only other question that I think I had was, and I should have caught this whenever I was proofreading. I think I might have missed it. On the Meta Pro or the Quest Pro table, if we look at the scores on that one, um, I think we've got the depth sensor marked as a 10 when it should be a 0.
Oh, that's for sure a typo.
Yeah.
Let me go look at the. I'm gonna see if I actually did that on the table or not. I definitely might have. No, okay, depth sensor is a 0 on the table. I just
Okay.
copied it over wrong.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, no, yeah, we were right on the table. I just messed it up on the presentation.
All right. No, that's all good. That's all good. I just saw that and you were like, whenever we were talking about it, we were like, oh, like it doesn't have a depth sensor. I'm like, whoa, but it's got a 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all good.
Good
That's all
catch.
good.
Good catch.
I'm glad that it's like not reflected in the scores or anything. So I think we've got a pretty good understanding. I think, yeah, from without eye tracking, it seems like the Quest 3 is by far and away the headset that fits most of our needs. It's a shame that it doesn't have the eye tracking though.
Yeah, if it had eye tracking, it would be perfect, but it's a
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, well, I see it works with the pucks. Have you, like, is that confirmed that will work with like external pucks?
Yeah, so what it does is it works with like Macopi trackers as well as Slime VR. In fact, Macopi primarily supports Quest. Um, Anyways, the basically most of the main 3D, sorry, the third-party trackers, they all support Quest. The biggest issue there was like how we get it working with Vive trackers, which there are ways to do it. It just takes we have to use that Python script I've talked about in the past, which is why I gave it a 7 because we have to use a little bit of elbow grease to make that happen. Mhm. Exactly, yeah. Well, that's something that's kind of hard with all of these headsets because even if we jump to say like the Vive XR Elite with inside out tracker pucks right now, it's not actually supported with Infinitec yet. So like Infinitec, we might be locked into Vive Pro eyes for like a while, to be honest.
Okay, well, thanks, Caleb, for this presentation. This was awesome. If anyone else wants, I guess, access to these, or where the big like comparison table is that sort of Caleb went through, we can sort of put that out after, at least where the links are. Because I think there was also some interest in maybe exercise using some of the AR lenses as well. So we'll try to put those out for you guys. Good news is that we do have, well, I guess we don't have an official lab Quest 3 or a Quest Pro. That's Frank's.
Yes, the Quest Pro we have access to is from the Hive lab. It's technically Adam Peterson's Quest Pro, but he lets me borrow it, so we can use that when we need to test things out. And then I've got a Quest 3 we can use to test things.
Okay, yeah, and then with we'll get the XR Elite from Vive here as like a loaner, and then hopefully with that eye tracking and the facial interface as well whenever those come out. So we can at least start some of those like early evaluations hopefully this year, like FY24. And then I'm thinking maybe like for next like fiscal years when we start to maybe implement some of these newer headsets. But this year can probably be more of, again, just trying to evaluate and integrate into our environment. So thanks, Caleb. I saw that Crystal can still talk. I don't know, Steven, are you available right after this meeting? If we can go a little bit long or.
Yeah, I can go a little over.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I did want to talk about just cognitive workload stuff. Also, since we were talking with Kate this morning, I think there's some pretty cool insight that came out of that conversation. So yeah, I'll hand it off to you, Stephen, if you want to show that. I think you had some slides prepared and.
Yeah, I just a few I put together. Sorry, I know I did these pretty recently, but yeah, just trying to come up with different ways that we can manipulate cognitive workload is kind of the idea here. And I think in an earlier version of this, I was really advocating for a very simplified approach. But upon more thought, I think trying to strike that balance between internal validity, experimental control, and having an operationally relevant kind of VR EVA scenario. So since then, I've been trying to think of ways that we can layer on more kinds of events that will collectively manipulate cognitive workload. Also, trying to leverage and build off the work that Grace Wusk had done on this project. Initially, her really excellent dissertation that she worked on at Virginia Tech, which had a lot of these ideas in it as well. So I think taking that and that kind of prototype, and then merging it or combining it with all the work that we've done with Chipia and fleshing out those geology tasks, I think is the main kind of idea here. With using the Shackleton Crater lunar scenario when that's available. So yeah, so basically, I guess I know there's not a lot of time, but I've just I think the main thing that I've been thinking about since is different kinds of events that we can use to manipulate workload. And also breaking it up into a traverse and a geology site kind of phase at a high level. And so Grace had kind of come up with these domains based on her work with the MapB, which I really like that way of validating this. I don't think we need to use the MapB, but I think these domains are at least or something similar is worth thinking about. So these would be resource management, system monitoring, communication, and then in this column, the events would be the events that would be used to manipulate workload. So while they're traversing, the IV would ask the EV to estimate either, their walking pace or ETA or O2 consumption rate or estimated O2 upon arrival. And what would differ between the two conditions would be the number of times this would be asked. So in the high workload condition, this would be asked, I kind of threw out a number here, but something like 6. And then low workload would be something like 3. And similarly for the system monitoring, this is like on the HUD. Oh yeah, Crystal, do you have a feedback?
Yeah, I couldn't remember if we decided how long the geology task would, I guess, take? Because I know you just picked 6 and 3, and this, we're not necessarily beholden to that, but like if they have like an hour to identify 6 of them, maybe it's not as high of a workload. So I didn't know how long did we ever decide how long the geology sampling task would take, or I can't remember if we did that or not.
We didn't really decide that. So I took the I did come up with like I kind of modified the sample the EVA timeline that was in the original documents for the study. Basically, I mean, this was done very quickly, and there needs to be a lot more thought and work that needs to be put into this. But there was kind of a central station where like some science modules would be done in the original version of the study. And I think just kind of thinking of subbing in a geology site, having like several sites that they would go to as like a first, initial substitution. But yeah, we haven't really discussed how long. That's a great question, like how much time they would actually spend at each site. And also thinking about like how much variability we want there as well. Like, do we want to constrain the amount of time that they can spend at each site, or do we want to kind of, let there be some variability there? I think that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I think, if it was like, let's say like a 15-minute task, then I think, maybe 6 samples or whatever, that chart that you had, that, that'd be a little bit more challenging than just say 3 in 15 minutes or whatever. But yeah, I think at some point we'll have to kind of make a decision on like how long does the geology sampling task normally take, I guess, with CHAPEA, like as an example, like a benchmark of like, hey, traditionally this is how long this task is taking participants, and then maybe kind of adjust from there and either condense or expand the time allotted for the
yeah. So I will say CHAPEA right now, they do, I mean, we block off like 20 minutes per like geology site. You could probably do it in like 10 minutes if you're really fast. But also I think we're going to be doing something a little bit different for this geology task than what we do in CHAPEA. So I mean, I like having different, like you got 3 or 6, but right now I think we will have to maybe change those values after some like early pilot testing of just like, all right, here's how long it actually takes to like search this geology area. Because I think we're trying to do something a little different than CHAPEA, but I would say just pilot studies and try to get some early test of like what we think is like a hard number of samples to try and get in a certain time period, but
okay, yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good idea, to make sure that, we're actively challenging them in the high workload and then not so much in the low. But yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I do like I know these initial numbers are just kind of like a, putting your thumb on the dial to see where it goes. Yeah.
But I think I like the start of it though. Yeah, like double the amount of samples or half the time that you have to collect your samples, something like that to stress them out. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. So in terms of piloting, yeah, I like the idea. I know we are trying to do something different from CHAPEA, but I like the idea of utilizing as much. That is an area that's like the data that we have, and so I think trying to like use that as a benchmark or some kind of starting point. Beyond that, I think the next steps are really trying to flesh out the timeline a bit more and think about this timing issue of like, what is a realistic number of samples that could be done in each site? What's a realistic traverse time? I think is also, or how long do we want the traverse to be? I mean, I think it definitely wouldn't be as long, anywhere near as long as CHAPEA, because we're not looking to kind of get that physical workload necessarily. But I do think there should be some physical workload. We just want to make sure, and we'd want to constrain, or we want to make that physical workload the same as well. We wouldn't want that to vary. So yeah, a lot of things to keep thinking about, but yeah, this is just kind of initial step at trying to take what we had talked about, I know like a few months or 2 ago, and trying to layer on some levels of complexity to make it a bit more of a realistic and fleshed out EVA timeline.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the start of it. I think I saw on the timeline that we're still like including, or are we including the like ALSEP like payload deploys, or is it just now geology and traverse?
Yeah, so to kind of simplify, I think in my mind at least, I needed to kind of try to I think I like to sort of start as simple as possible and then build up complexity from there, just to kind of have control over the elements. So for me, I was really thinking of it just as a series of geology sites. I know we had talked about like Com Tower, stuff like that, but there's quite a lot we could do even within the geology. I mean, that's a pretty complex task. So
Yeah, I'm
I
with
think
you.
for now, I would advocate for kind of just sticking with that task. And if we feel like it's not quite, enough of a simulation or an accurate simulation, or it's not getting the workload up enough, then we could consider adding some others like all set for com.
Okay,
Yeah, I
I
agree.
have
I
nothing
think
to add.
initially, yeah, just try to keep everything simple until we can kind of get an idea of how challenging it really is, and then, adjust the timing there. And then in the future, we can continue to add more modules or different EVA tasks.
Okay, so then if we're going to be doing that, I did kind of want to talk about the actual geology task, because I think I want to start at least doing some development on the VR side of that, so that we can start some of these pilot tests, and like hopefully like January, we can start doing some of these with. I'm trying to think, do we need a TRR and Infinitec to do? I don't think we would need to. I think we would probably do pilot tests in December. I don't think we need a TRR to do like these engineering evals. It's not actual subjects going on the Infinitec. So let me look into that, but hopefully we can maybe do some pilot runs in December. But in terms of the geology task, I may just paste it again here to this group, but I did send you guys what we were kind of talking with Kate Rubens this morning, and some of the geology, like what's a more realistic, like field geology. And I think there was actually some good ideas we could use there, of sort of kind of breaking up the geology task into, let me find our chat. Okay, you essentially can break the geology task into one sort of just like your visual search, like just trying to identify, okay, so here's my region of interest. It's like a, I don't know, 30 by 30 meter, square that I'm supposed to sort of just, I'm trying to examine this region that the scientists have shared with me. And then I need to essentially identify what is there. So one, you have to like actually, are you correctly identifying the correct rocks that are all there? And then are you actually identifying everything that's in this search zone? So maybe there's like 80% of the rocks are all of this one type of material and rock. And then maybe there's like a couple in there that are maybe not as abundant, and it's those would be like the harder ones to find. But the like overall task would be one, like how long did it take you to complete this? And then like how accurate were you in calling out the rocks that were there? So you're having to use your memory of whatever the rock and just like off of the visual cues, I guess you kind of have to remember what are the different rocks that could be there, and then you have to like accurately identify them, call them out. So did you I accurately identify, and then did you identify all the possible rocks? So there may be some that aren't as abundant, and we just make sure that you're also like calling those out and not just being like, okay, I'm in this region, there's really only these 2 rocks here. I don't see anything else, when you might have missed a higher priority geology sample because you're just trying to rush through your tasks. So that's at least how I'm kind of envisioning it right now in terms of what this geology task is. Like we're going to have a fixed sort of region, whether we're bounding that with navigation flags or lights in the VR world. Like this is what you're trying to search, this region. And within that region, we'll have a certain amount of rocks, of like known visual attributes, I guess, and they kind of memorize, all right, here's the possible rock could be out there. You need to know like what are the different labels for them, and then even so, I guess the geology compositions of them, because maybe there's higher priority rocks, that would then be the second part of the task, is then actually like bringing back the whatever those high priority rocks are. So trying to think. Oh, and then the other thing we talked about was the verbal communications. I know, Stephen, you've talked about that with like BHP. You guys are interested in doing some, and I don't even know what this would look like, but I think it definitely makes sense, is at a minimum, we can at least just save all of those like communication, the audio data, and then if there's some post hoc, some I don't know, AI decoder that can help us sort of figure out when there were like lapses in verbal communications or misspeaks. I think that's like a really cool thing to look into. But those are kind of just the things that we talked about with like the actual geologists. Is it's more of like you have a region there and you kind of know like what should be there, but the scientists and all that, they don't actually have that on the surface detail. They just have whatever the satellite imagery is. So they rely really heavily on the crew member to like verbally describe what they're seeing. And if they're overloaded, they may not be describing as much as the science team would like. And then they pretty much have to accurately describe what they're seeing. So if you're not accurately recalling whatever these geology rocks are, then that's also an issue. So I don't know, any other comments that you guys had? Hopefully that was enough for you guys to read through the big text I just sent in the chat, but
yeah, I saw it earlier. I do agree with that last bullet with the verbal comms. I've seen that in quite a bit of literature. Yeah, I mean, verbal comms tend to go down or become more inaccurate the more task saturated you are. So I mean, that's definitely something that we should definitely do, is keep the audio recordings, so that, post hoc analysis can be done later to, that could be like a whole other paper of, what's going on with verbal comms. But yeah, I think in general, the scenario setup would definitely be, we have this big region, let's bound it. And then I think we can still incorporate what we've already been talking about into what's in these bullets here. I don't know about the map book.
Yeah, I agree with
I'm
that one.
confused about that a little bit necessarily. Is that are they kind of like trying to identify item or areas of interest within the big target area? Is that kind of
the
what
map book was that was just more of they say as part of just like the planetary ops, like navigating is a lot harder than you would think. So in terms of like the cognitive, like you can easily get lost. So that's what they were mentioning when we are doing a cognitive workload study. But I'm more in line with like Steven's, just trying to keep it simple, and even like pulling from Grace's study where we just use the navigation flags. Obviously maybe not the most realistic, but I think you can do some similar like cognitive performance comparisons with the like navigation flags and the symbol combos, symbol pairings.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you guys. Just try to, I think for this initial run, keep it as simple as we can, so we can really kind of just dig deep into what the data is telling us. And yeah, I mean, we can run this multiple times if the sampling task only takes about, like you have 20 minutes allotted or 25 minutes, or, we can adjust it. You can do multiple sessions in a day with the same participant. You can counterbalance it and then and get some good data, I think, or even do it across multiple days. Just depends on what the schedule,
Yeah. So what I'm thinking, I don't know if you have any big comments or concerns from like Crystal or Steven, but I'm gonna probably start to implement that of kind of having like a search zone in VR, and then we're just gonna start to kind of tease out with the different rocks and like how many rocks do you need in a search zone, what kind of variety, and sort of figure out what those numbers might be for like a low workload and a high workload condition. And once we kind of have once we have that general like search zone, Steven, I think I want to maybe bring you over and we can like kind of just do some quick run throughs on the Infinideck and see what makes sense for the geology task.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a great approach, and yeah, definitely agree with everything y'all are saying about this. And yeah, I think Kate's feedback is really helpful in fleshing out some of this detail.
And we'll add Crystal too. We'll have like a Teams, some meeting invite or whatever where we can call you in as well, Crystal. And yeah, I think that's
we'll holler you up, Crystal.
Hey, no, I mean, I can always ask the higher ups if there's money in the budget to travel there occasionally, but that's not my decision.
Yeah.
But it would be definitely cool to get in there and actually see what's going on instead of having to do it through Teams.
I know. I feel like we've talked so much about Apache with you, and we still haven't. You've never been out here, so it'd be cool to get you.
I mean,
but-
I've been out there once, but it was like they were just starting to build a sand pit.
Oh,
Like it hadn't.
yeah.
It
We had
does
nothing.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't look like it looks like now. So it's
Yeah.
definitely come a
Yes,
long way.
Yeah.
one
So okay,
other-
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
Oh, one other thing I was just going to mention is the audio transcript thing. I think is a really great idea. Like our lab, we've actually done a lot with this kind of stuff in previous projects, and we're doing something similar with Artemis 2. So like Suzanne had really expressed interest in getting some kind of team metric, some kind of, without going overboard. Doesn't have to be, a manipulation, but just some measure of teamwork. And I think that really presents an interesting, like both as a measure of cognitive workload to look at comm decreases, but also maybe looking at IV, EV kind of team ratings
Yeah,
could be
teamwork.
useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and I
rate
know that's,
and transcription. Yeah.
and I don't know if Kate was also mentioning. I don't know if you guys are doing this in VHP, but yeah, like looking at like ISS, like actual like video data and talking to crew members and like, hey, I was really stressed out at this period of time, and you guys kind of like mark those and like EVA. I don't know. This was we're getting off tangent here, but they had some cool work. It sounded like that would align more with BHP. So
Yeah. I mean, we are doing like audio visual stuff for like
okay,
Artemis 2.
cool.
So yeah, it's
That's part of
there's
what
a
you were saying.
similar trying to kind of do behavioral coding and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was gonna say for next steps, or at least just on our side, we're gonna try to get this initial geology task up and running, and then hopefully I'm gonna try to get something in like early December so we can get you guys over here and do some like early pilot tests, and maybe flesh out this study design a little more.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good.
Anything that you guys need besides the VR? I know we're still tracking like TRR stuff. Is there anything else I'm missing?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of.
All right. Well, then I think this was good. Good conversation. So there's nothing else. I think we can call it. I know we've run over our time, so thank you guys for staying.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we'll call it here. So yeah, good talk,
All right.
and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye, y'all.
See you later.
Bye.